Southeast Asian leaders have gathered today in the Indonesian capital Jakarta for the 43rd ASEAN Summit. The focus will be on the crisis in Myanmar that unfolded after the military takeover that happened 2 years ago, and also the Chinese assertiveness in the South China Sea. Leaders of the 10 member states have opened the summit, which will be a test of the bloc's unity. This as members have remained divided over the prolonged crisis in Myanmar, which is an ASEAN member. Russia says it destroyed 4 US-made military boats heading towards the Crimean Peninsula. It provided no further information on the alleged attack. Ukraine has not commented on Russia's claims. In a separate statement, Russia's defense ministry said that it had thwarted Ukrainian attacks in Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kupiansk. Drone strikes inside Russia have dramatically increased in recent months, notably in Moscow. Ukraine has alleged that Russian drones landed on Romanian territory during a series of strikes on a neighboring Ukrainian city. However, Romania has rejected Kyiv's version of events, denying that its territory has been hit. The drone strikes came hours before President Vladimir Putin was due to meet his Turkish counterpart Erdogan for talks about restarting the Black Sea grain deal. The alleged incident occurred as Russian forces pounded Ukraine's Danube ports, including Izmail, for a second night in a row. However, Ukraine's foreign minister claimed that Kyiv had photographic evidence to show that Russian drones crashed in Romanian territory. North Korean leader Kim Jongun plans to travel to Russia in September to meet President Vladimir Putin. Kim is set to discuss the possibility of supplying Moscow with weapons for the war in Ukraine. According to the New York Times, Kim would travel from Pyongyang, probably by armored train, to Vladivostok on the Pacific coast of Russia. The two leaders would discuss North Korea sending Russian artillery shells and anti-tank missiles in exchange for Moscow's advanced technology for satellites and nuclear-powered submarines. The Korean leader met Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu in Pyongyang in July. The pair attended a large military parade commemorating the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War. After holding talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the Turkish President Erdogan now says that it would soon be possible to revive the Black Sea grain deal. However, Putin maintains his stance that Moscow will not participate in the renewal of the deal unless its demands are met by the West. Russia quit the deal in July, a year after it was brokered by the United Nations and Turkey, complaining that its own food and fertilizer exports face serious obstacles. Erdogan has also said that Ukraine should soften its negotiating position against Russia in talks over reviving the deal and export more grain to Africa rather than Europe. Russia and Ukraine are two of the major players in the wheat, barley, maize, rapeseed oil, sunflower seed and sunflower oil markets. Bolivian authorities torched a cocaine laboratory located in the Andean country's central region with the capacity to produce 400 and 500 monthly kilograms. The lab was discovered on August 28th in the Santa Cruz department jungle in an area prone to floods due to its proximity to the Pirai River. Authorities estimate that this bust will represent an economic blow to the drug trafficking economy. At least 4 soldiers and 2 alleged members of the Shining Path rebel group have been killed in a clash in a region of Peru known for coca production. The Peruvian army said a group of soldiers was attacked in the early morning hours by rebels in the province of Huanta. The deadly skirmish underscores fighting between the military and armed groups seeking control of the lucrative drug trade in Peru, the second largest coca leaf producer in the world after neighboring Colombia. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte paid tribute to the soldiers shortly after on social media. Israel has officially opened its embassy in Bahrain 3 years after both sides normalized ties. The Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen attended an official ceremony for the opening of diplomatic mission during a visit to Bahrain, which also included a delegation of businessmen and government officials. The normalization deal between Bahrain and Israel was part of a series of agreements known as the Abraham Accord. Israel had also signed this accord with the United Arab Emirates, Morocco and Sudan. Analysts said the reapproachment with Israel was forged partly through shared fears of Iran. Figures released by the Turkish Statistic Institute showed Turkey's annual inflation rate climbed to 58.94% in August, the highest number since December 2022. Transportation is the main driver for the increasing inflation rate, which surged 16.61% month-on-month. It was followed by household goods and food, which rose more than 9% and 8% respectively. Turkey has been seeing a rising inflation rate since November 2011. The Turkey Central Bank has hiked the interest rate 3 times since June this year to curb inflation. It has also increased its main key interest rate from 8.5% to 25%. A Georgia teenager was shot dead by cops after he gunned down a police dog during an 8-hour manhunt. The shooting happened in Jonesboro, Georgia, which is about 17 miles south of Atlanta. County police dispatched a police K-9 unit which located the suspect hiding in a nearby wooded area. Verbal commands were reportedly given for the suspect to come out. However, the teen allegedly produced a handgun and began firing, striking the police dog. The officers set up a perimeter to contain the suspect and transported the dog to a local animal hospital where it later succumbed to its injuries. About 50,000 South Korean teachers rallied in Seoul to demand better protection of their rights and called widespread harassment by overbearing parents. This comes after a young teacher was found dead in an apparent suicide in July. Teachers nationwide have since been holding vigils and demonstrations every weekend to mourn the deaths and demand improved rights. Teachers demand better protection for themselves amid growing outrage about the teaching staff being mistreated, including being accused of child abuse for simply disciplining students. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa was on Monday sworn in for a second term after being declared the winner of last month's controversial election. Zimbabweans went to presidential polls on August 23rd. However, the main opposition party described the results as a gigantic fraud. In his speech after being inaugurated on Monday, the president pleaded for unity in the aftermath of the polls and promised to revive the ailing economy. A report by the Southern African Development Community said the election fell short of regional and international standards, while the European Union's observer mission said that the polls happened under a climate of fear. Several African leaders, including South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, attended the swearing-in ceremony. Niger's junta-appointed Prime Minister Ali Mahamane Lamine Zine has said that talks with West Africa's regional bloc ECOWAS was ongoing. Zine also expressed that he expects French troops to soon begin withdrawing from the country. Niger's military leaders also on Monday reopened the country's airspace to all commercial flights after closing it following their coup. Zine's comments came as a large protest demanding the withdrawal of French troops at Niamey's French military base stretched into its third day. Anti-French sentiment has risen since the coup, but soared further last week when France ignored the junta's order for its ambassador to leave. The Economic Community of Central African States has suspended Gabon's membership in response to a coup last month that ousted President Ali Bongo. The coup drew cheering crowds onto the streets of the capital, but condemnation from abroad. The ousted president has been kept under house arrest. Bongo was elected in 2009, taking over from his late father, who came to power in 1967. Opponents say the family did too little to share Gabon's oil and mining wealth with the country's 2.3 million people. The Aditya L1, the first space-based Indian mission to study the sun, underwent the second Earthbound maneuver successfully during the early hours on Tuesday. The space agency's telemetry, tracking and command network carried out the operation. The process for the satellite's final placement at the L1 point will require a series of intricate maneuvers. The next one is scheduled for September 10th. Aditya L1 is expected to arrive at the intended orbit at the L1 point after about 127 days. Typhoon Haikui unleashed heavy rainfall in the southeastern Chinese city Xiamen as it is moving towards the shore to make landfall. Schools and kindergartens remain closed in some areas as a precaution. Before hitting mainland China, Haikui passed over Taiwan, leaving more than 100 people injured. Taiwan's Emergency Operations Center said that about 260,000 households were left without electricity. The local flood prevention headquarters in China has warned residents at low-lying and coastal areas about waterlogging and asked them to be prepared for geological disasters. According to a joint UN-African Union report, Africa is heating up at a faster rate than the rest of the planet and enduring more severe climate and weather disasters. According to the World Met Organization, the continent was hit by 80 extreme weather and climate hazards last year. These disasters, such as the Horn of Africa's worst drought in 40 years and Algerian wildfires, resulted in 5,000 deaths and more than $8.5 billion in economic damage. The report said that the average rate of warming in Africa was 0.3 degrees Celsius per decade between 1991 and 2022, when compared with 0.2 degrees in the world as a whole. At least 3 people have died after heavy rains lashed Spain, triggering flash floods that forced the closure of Madrid metro lines and high-speed rail links. Helicopters were sent to rescue people who had sought refuge on the roofs of their homes. The sudden downpour on Sunday and early Monday transformed streets into rivers of mud that swept away cars and trash bins in Madrid. 3 people died in the countryside around the central city of Toledo, where the weather service registered record rainfall. Several railway lines were closed in central Madrid. However, most of the service was re-established in the city during the morning.
Acércate un pelín más. María. No se vaya a desbordar.
Espera, un momento.
Freddie Mercurys' piano, which was used to compose the famous song Bohemian Rhapsody, will be auctioned on Wednesday. The piano is expected to fetch a price between $2.5 to $3.8 million. More than 1,400 of Mercury's personal items are put on display in an exhibition dubbed Freddie Mercury, a world of his own. In addition to the piano, other items up for sale include Mercury's crown and royal cloak, along with handwritten manuscript lyrics for "We Are the Champions." An Indian artist from India's Gujarat on Monday expressed his desire to gift India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi a diamond-studded portrait of him. Vipul Jaipila is an artist from Surat city and has made the dazzling portrait using 7,200 diamonds for Prime Minister Modi's 73rd birthday. He used 4 different qualities of diamonds for the portrait and took about 3.5 months to complete the project. This comes as the Prime Minister will be turning 73 on September 17th. According to the UK's Race Car Club, last month's petrol price increase was the largest in the United Kingdom in more than 20 years. The RAC said that the average price of filling up a tank increased by around $5.05 in August, due to price hikes of about 7 pence per litre for unleaded fuel and 8 pence per litre for diesel. If large retailers had not allowed margins to return to more typical levels, the rise may have been substantially steeper. The RAC noted that the rising cost of oil was a major factor in rising petrol prices as OPEC and its partners reduced supply. As a result, the cost of petroleum at the wholesale level increased, and those costs were passed on to customers. Germany's banking regulator is looking into allegations that Deutsche Bank AG's Postbank retail division was hampered by tech problems that disrupted customers' transactions. According to a statement posted on its website, regulatory body BaFin has observed considerable disturbances in the handling of customer business at Postbank. The authority said it is looking into whether or not any deficiencies have supervisory significance. The bank has spent the better part of a decade seeking to upgrade or retire the information technology at its Postbank. This process, which has been internally referred to as Project Unity, was finally completed in July.